activity in the conference. Usually I give this lecture in the conference. So what I'd like to do, I'm sorry, can I have to stand back for Sorry. That's my child. So what I'd like to do is save the hands-on activity for the conference and get you guys to use, that's how I test you. So everything we learned today you'll be asked to do on the conference day. What did I say? There's a lot of talking in here. And for those of you that know me, know that I don't like to repeat myself. I love you guys, but I hate talking over it. I tell that to my kids all the time. Do I have to repeat myself? So no test, no formal questions, I don't think. Maybe an extra credit or something, but I'll test you guys as we go along, so pay attention. And especially for you. And then a hands-on activity in the conference where you get to draw your own icons based on what we taught. Okay? All right, so how I got into this business of knowing what to say about icons. I was really interested in art in high school, love art. I thought I was going to be an artist, and my parents said I'm not allowed to be a starving artist, and I had to go to med school. So I ended up doing that instead. But I really love art, and I'm sorry? Thank you. I appreciate that. And I love art. I love all kinds of different art. I particularly like oil paint, and as you guys know, some of you know, the new folks you probably don't know, I grew up in Virginia, and we didn't really have a church, so the concept of icons and this iconstasis and all this stuff, altar, that's very new to me. I went to a Protestant church growing up because the nearest church was in D.C., and that was like 4 hours away. So when I got older and we started having, like we'd go to church, like, I don't know, on the major occasions like Christmas and Easter, and it's like, wow, what a beautiful church. But otherwise, I didn't really know much about service, the Coptic church and stuff, except for what my parents, they were like my true servants growing up. So what I'd like to, when I first came here, I was like, wow, this is actually a unique type of art style. Of course, that's where my eyes went first when I come to church, right? And it's like such a horrible person. So I was like, this is really an interesting form of art. So I started reading it and studying it. And I have to give credit to Abuna Moros, who actually knew that I was taking it on as something that, like, I wasn't working yet, just got married, and I just decided to occupy my time by learning how to do icons and reading about it and painting it. And so he actually got me to do this first lecture when I first moved here, like, I don't know, 8 years ago. So I have to give him the credit for getting me into this, because it actually is a real passion of mine, and I'm happy to share it with you. So I'll show you my first icon that I did, and then I realized I was doing it all wrong. And then you guys, so this is your test. I never finished it, because once I learned I did it all wrong, I was like, oh, I can't finish it now. So keep this in mind. I'll keep pointing to it. What's really great about this church is that we have a lot of Coptic icons here. So I'll point to them if you can't see the ones that I have. And then you'll be able to tell me why this is wrong. Okay? We'll see. Hold on, this is going to be a little difficult. Okay, so before I get started, what do you guys know about icons?
The color dark green is usually used when, can you not?
Press the wrong button.
Oh. The color green is?
The darker green, the very dark green is supposed to represent like just evil and the devil. I think Judas is wearing dark green or black, I'm not sure.
Very good. Green represents evil.
And then the lighter green.
Very good.
What else? Something.
I'd like give it your shot. What else do you know? Oh. Anybody else? Blue represents life.
Wait, what?
I don't know about that. Moros? Yeah, I was like, maybe that's something I don't know. By the way, this is my disclosure. I don't pretend to know everything there is to know about icons. I'm still learning.
Wait, can you?
Very good. It's a profile. Very good. It's not a full frontal point. Very good. So you guys know a lot about who's evil. So it's good, because these are it's important to know that what is an icon, really? It's a biography about a saint's life. If you remember go back to the early church, people were illiterate. They couldn't read, right? So, and we had all kinds of languages come through. First we were speaking and talking in the ancient Egyptian and drawing in hieroglyphics, and then Coptic comes to town, and then Arabic comes to town. So there's a lot of language fluctuations, and there's a lot of people who can't read or write in the first place. So these are actually like biographies on the saint's life. So it's really okay. All right. So they're called spiritual windows because a lot of them are consecrated, and so they're supposed to be like a sneak peek right into heaven, right? So you look into them. I was in Egypt one time in a monastery, and a monk there told me, his name was Father Jacob, and he said, pray to this icon. It's like a telephone up to heaven. If you whatever you ask, it's like a direct line. Really, it's like networking. If you think about it, the more saints you have on your side, that's the connections with the big CEO upstairs, right? So that's kind of like how it is. I told you that, so St. John of Damascus is the one who actually calls them books of the illiterate. So that's why I said they're really a lot like biographies. Sorry, this keeps fading out. Okay. What's this story of? Very good. What do you notice about this? There's what? Angels. What else do you guys notice about Coptic icons, specifically compared to like Roman or Greek icons? How do you know this is a Coptic icon and not a Greek or a Roman? Aside from the Coptic writing on the... What's that? The guy? Some people explain them as cartoonish looking. They're not real. It's like, not like I'm looking around to see if we have any Roman or Greek icons here. But the other ones are very, the Roman styles, they're very rich in color. They look more realistic, right? These are they don't look like real faces, right? They're portrayed in a certain way, and we're going to find out why. Why do you think that is? Everything has meaning. That's why I stopped painting this thing, because I realized I had no meaning going into it. I was just painting along. Okay. So the art, it's three-dimensional. Okay. What does that mean? It has a height. It's very long and lean. You'll notice the pictures are long and lean. The people are long and lean. Their fingers are long and lean. What else? It has a depth, but not in the depth that we know as like 3D depth. It goes beyond the physical depth. It has a spiritual depth. That's why we call them spiritual windows. What else? Can you guys hear me if I'm not using the mic? What about the face? So they're very symbolic. Everything has meaning in an icon. Everything has meaning. What about the face? It's round. What does that represent?
No beginning, no end.
Yes, a circle has no beginning and no end, just like Christ, just like God, right? No beginning, no end. You usually see a full front face, except, like we said, when you have representing evil. And this I could actually use as an example, because Judas is actually facing to the side, right? So a full frontal face, you see full eyes, right? No matter what, if you are facing, even if you look at the Last Supper picture, they're all facing Christ, but you see their entire face. If I'm facing this way, do you see both my eyes? No. But they're all still drawn with full frontal face. That's to represent that they have no shame, nothing to hide. They're, connected to you right here. There's nothing to hide. It's all truth. But those that are evil are represented with a profile. So that's, again, people can't read. So this is how they know that's the bad guy, that's Judas, and that's his story. So he was facing away from Christ because he's leaving to go rat him out, right? And he's in green, like we said, is also another representation of evil, right? Okay, what else? I don't know that it. Moros, do you know if it matters which way they're facing if they're evil? I haven't read that there's a significance in the direction. I'm sorry? Yeah, because I think in this particular story, he's walking away from him. Right, yeah, he could have been on the other side. Some pictures won't even have him in it. You know, some have him with the story that he wasn't even at the Last Supper because he was too busy trying to get his gold or what have you, right? So some pictures don't even have him in it. What else do you guys see? What about the eyes? Look up there. You guys have lots of examples, right? So what else? What about the eyes? What do you see? Jerome. Eyes are wide. Why are eyes wide? It's right there for you. Yes, so in Matthew 6:22, so here's a verse it's healthy to remember. The light of the body is the eye. If therefore thine eye be simple, thy whole body shall be full of light. So Jerome also mentioned that the mouth is small. We'll get to that in just a second. But the eyes are large because eyes are a symbol of wisdom. What do we say about the cherubim? And full of eyes, they're full of wisdom. Exactly. So it's all about wisdom. So big eyes because they seek truth. Come on up. No problem. They seek truth. They have nothing to hide, and they're full of wisdom and knowledge. Okay? What else? I'm sorry? Again, it's beheaded but full frontal. Isn't that? It's a full frontal face, right? Okay, we'll get to the individual ones in just a second. But just about the eyes, that's what I wanted you guys to know. Okay? And also that they look beyond this world onto the spiritual world, right? So they have like superpowers. What about... So I'm going to pass this because I think we already talked about this. But they're known as, in the Coptic icons, are known as open heart eyes. Really wide open. That might be a pop quiz. It's a good question. Okay, blind sight. So we already talked about this because a lot of you guys are pretty smart, sharp. So the only time that you don't see two eyes, you know it's evil, and it's a profile. And so that person's got some kind of bad story in the icon, okay? All right. So that was my example. So this one, I think, is the one that doesn't have Judas in it. Yeah. There's 6 on one side, on the right, and the rest are just very... Say that again? Yeah. All right. What about the ears? You can barely see them, and most of the time, especially with the women, they tend to be, they're hidden and wrapped, but they're very small. Yeah. You can barely see them in some of them. Yeah. Because they tend to be long. Yeah, you can't see them in these, but they tend to be long. And that's to symbolize what? What do you think? Take a guess.
If you have ears here.
You guys are a sharp bunch today, all right? Yes. Okay. So blessed are your eyes for they see and your ears for they hear. So now you know that everything that goes into drawing these things comes from the Bible, comes from Scripture, comes from some kind of story. Everything has meaning. Everything is significant. What else? Lips, mouth. Jerome mentioned it earlier. Why is it so small? What do you think?
So, they don't say bad things like you in the mouth when it says the bad words or cursing and stuff. So if it's in your mouth, you can't speak bad things.
Very good. Who said that last week? Ah, Bulis. High five. Bonus points for someone who paid attention to your lecture. Very good. So, yes, so their mouths are small because the only thing that should be coming out of their mouth is praising God or bringing others to Christ. Anything more than that is going to cause trouble, right? Let your yes be yes, let your no be no. Anything more than that is going to get you into a little stumbling weeds, right? And anything less than that, well, they're not doing anything good with their mouth, right? So it's small and to the point. It's always to speak worthy praise, truth, and just limit it to that only, right? Okay, what else? I like the proverb. It says, a man of knowledge uses words with restraint. I like it because when I came across it, I was like, that sounds like something that would be like Buddha would say. Or like some kind of meditation for us. And that's actually in our scripture. So pretty great words of wisdom. I love Proverbs. It's one of my favorites. We love to study it on the retreats. But it's true. Use your words with restraint, right? A wise man says less. So as we are in servants prep, this next verse is very important to us. So Matthew 12:36. But I tell you that men will have to give account on the day. Are you guys with me? Okay. But I tell you that men will have to give account on the day of judgment for every careless word they have spoken. That's pretty. That's deep. And it's right there, and it's for us to know and be aware of it. We're going to be judged. So keep your mouth small and to the point. Watch what you say. Okay, so now, pop quiz. What did we learn? Wide open. What are they called? Open heart eyes. Small mouth. Why?
Because the bad words, you can't say bad.
Speak wisdom. Don't say bad things. You'll be judged for them. A long nose, yes. Everything is very long and lean. Okay. Round face. This is a little more oval than usual, but yes, true Coptic icons are very round. Look at the round faces, right? What else do you notice that we haven't talked about so far? The colors, what else? The strokes, right? The strokes, you see how it's like very linear? Chop, chop. Everything matters. Nothing goes without having been thought about when it came to creating icons. What's really interesting is that these came from the ancient Egyptian paintings with the hieroglyphics on the walls. So again, part of church history is taking that rich history that makes us who we are, that good stuff that makes us who we are, leave the bad stuff, but that great stuff that makes us who we are, part of our heritage. There's a lot of talking over here that's distracting me. There's a lot of talking over here. If this is boring to you, if it's not interesting, I accept, but please don't disturb others, and it's distracting me, okay? All right. So that rich history that makes us who we are, that's really, it's really amazing. So it's made its way into our church. What else made its way of our church that you've learned in church history so far? We learned about Ip Oro that actually came from the ancient Egyptians to welcome their king into the town, and then we've kind of absorbed that into our church. Did you guys know that? For those of you that may or may not have been present. And then the icons are another thing. So ancient Egyptian paintings, they were very oddly done, right? If they had someone, they were always kind of face to, kind of gave you the side. No, it was this way, right? They were always kind of weird shaped, right? And oddly done. And that has taken place into our church. It's been brought in. So it's really, really amazing. The colors, they were really rich and gold because, again, signifying richness and importance. So these things we brought in, and we should be really proud of them. So if you're not interested in paints or icons or art, that's okay. But be proud of this part of us, this part of our heritage. What else do you see here? Halos. The stuff in her hands, okay. The colors, again, the richness of colors. They're really dark, right? Okay, what about proportion? We didn't talk about proportion. So what do you notice? Let's go back one. The sizes. Are the other 40 that tiny and she's that big? No. Her leadership, okay. But also within the same person, they kind of have like a large head to body ratio. And that's again to symbolize wisdom and knowledge, right? Because it's all carried right here. Okay, what else? What do you notice about this one? Okay, again, pretend way back when you're an illiterate person of the church who cannot read. What do you make of this story? This is a biography on who? Moses, very good. What does this tell us about Moses? What is in his hands? I'll help you guys out. The 10 Commandments, okay. He's talking to a burning bush. But there's someone burning in the bush. Who's burning in the bush? Is that someone burning in the bush? What is it? It symbolizes St. Mary. Right, very good. Okay. I think you guys knew that, but you just don't want to talk. Okay. What else? So going back to the picture that Bishoy you mentioned earlier, the beheaded head in the hand. So even if saints endured suffering, they never show it on their face. And I'm looking around to see if there's another one. Usually St. Mina and St. George are somewhere. But even if they've suffered the ultimate, horrid death, you never see it on their face. They always have that Zen peace feeling. Face is always very neutral and happy. So look at you guys can walk over. Look at the one with St. John the Baptist. What do you notice? So it's beheaded, but what do you notice? Does he look like he just got his head cut off? Do you see peace or do you see pain? His eyes are closed. What's that? Musical? Peaceful, exactly. So it never shows that they're in pain or suffered, because this is something they willfully did. They walked to their own death. They knew that where they were going, they were walking to their glory. They knew what they were getting. Okay, what else? So this is another example. Any green here? The little demon, right. Very good. What about here? That, I would say, is an ultimate suffering, but do you see it on his face? You can't see. It's hard to see. But he's very content. He's very content on the cross. Again, no signs of suffering. What about, So the iconstasis is a whole other lecture, maybe. But we'll get to that. There's also an ostrich egg and all kinds of other things. So we could do that as well in another lecture. Okay, what else? The painting itself, what do you think? So now I told you, here's pop quiz. The painting itself, it always goes from dark to light. What does that signify? The resurrection? From death to resurrection. A lot of good thoughts. But in the Coptic icon, and remember we're speaking specifically about Coptic icons, right? So in the Coptic icon, it signifies in the beginning there was darkness, and then God said, let there be light. So nothing goes without planning. Everything has a reason, a rhyme, a way. So I don't know how many of you guys took art class, but that's very hard to do. So what I did with this, I started with what we normally do. You start with light, then you shade in, right? And then you kind of use your dark and kind of put in your shadows. So that's what I started doing, and as I got here, and then as I'm learning more, I'm like, that didn't work. So now I have to start all over. So I never did it all over again because I thought this was a good example of just showing how very different it is from modern art and a lot of the different things we use. So you start from dark and you highlight. Now, look at these colors. They're very rich. They're very bold. You're starting with dark. You know how much time it takes to lighten that up? That's a lot of time. But the whole time, the iconographer is praying, they're fasting, they're growing spiritually. It's a whole process. It's not like I thought at all where, I enjoy painting, I think I'll do this today. It's a whole process, and it's a really rich and spiritual growth for them. Well, I didn't finish ever, but I'll talk to you about the one back there, which Morris also had a hand in, and his sister. Okay, so that represents the darkness. What about the colors? We talked about green, so we can skip that. And then the richness, the bold, dark colors, that's again to signify the richness of our faith, the richness of our church, the richness of God, all this other stuff, right? This is failing me. Sorry. Show me what to do and I can stop bothering you. Oh. Okay, thank you. This is distracting me more than anything. Okay, what do you see here? Gold. Again, a lot of gold. What else? What does the round face represent? Noor, I'm just going to go around the room. Round face, what does it represent? I told you guys this was pop quiz. It's not really on the test.
Wait, say it again.
What does the round face represent? No, I'm asking Noor. Round face. Somebody help him out. I'm sorry? No beginning, no end. Very good. What about the ears? They're long. Why? What does it represent? Very good. Always listening. Okay. What about the eyes? Veronica.
Because you can see everything around you.
See everything around you? Somebody else. Wisdom. Mary. A little louder. They have no shame. Very good. I'm glad you remembered that. Okay. Very good. All right, so listen up, because I warned you guys in the first place that we're going to do pop quiz. Okay. What about this one? What does green represent? Matthew. Evil, very good. Yeah. And what about profile face? Bishoy. What's that?
It represents evil against God.
Very good. One thing I didn't talk to you guys is the brush strokes. So about the brush strokes. So when I first started doing this one, I kind of just was blending, not really knowing how to really go about painting a Coptic icon. But if you look at these icons, they're very, very straight and narrow strokes. They're almost triangular, very linear. What do you think that represents? Straight and narrow. That kind of says it. Straight path, very straight and narrow. Yes. Yeah. What's that? Yes.
How it looks like, that's a different story, but like,
Every brush stroke, every color, every decision that goes into making one of these has a reason, and it is accounted for. That's what makes these really, really, really interesting and very significant, as compared to like the Roman and Greek icons, which are really great as well. Okay, what about the iconographer? What do you guys know about iconographers? In no way, shape, or form do I claim to be one, because it's a whole process. So there it was, Tassoni Sausan, I think that's her name. She is a nun who came from Egypt to do she was actually, so they're trained kind of like disciples of each other. And she was trained under one who had like the really famous name that did most of them. I can't remember his name right now off the top of my head. But so she was trained under him. She came that year that I was studying icons. She came from Egypt to do the Brunswick Church. So I decided to pick her brain a little bit because she was staying at a family member's house. So I was like, oh, well, let me go see what she's going to teach me. And she did amazing work. If you guys ever get a chance to go to the East Brunswick Church, those are all the paintings that she did, especially the ones up in the ceiling and things. And they took her like a really long time. Okay, so iconographers, they're not artists. We can't just say they're artists. That just doesn't really describe them enough. They really are people who have a deep understanding in our church history, in our church dogma, in our church sacraments, in our faith. Everything that you're learning in servants prep, they know to a deeper extent. So they're very well knowledged. Why? Because they have to use it all in this. Would you ever think you're going to have a test on sacraments and use it in a painting? No, but they do, and it's really, really amazing. So, what else? I told you they fast. They fast. They're meditating. Those of you in college, you'll hear me talk about meditation in the next hour. But they're meditating. They're in tune. They're fasting. They're spiritually growing. They're singing hymns of the church. They're really, it's a whole spiritual process for them. What else? Theologians, one might say, because they're really well versed in everything, right? I told you about the other things, right? Starting dark time. I think that must have been, I don't know why that's included here. Okay, so these are the, if you guys are interested in reading about icons, The Educating Icon is the book that I really liked and enjoyed reading. There's also iconsexplained.com, which is a nice and quick way. And again, to Sonny Sausan and Abuna Morris for encouraging me to do this. I will take your questions and point some things out to you if you want. That's it. Pretty fast, right? So usually, like I said, there's a second portion to this, which is the hands-on portion where we will actually paint our own icons of ourselves. With actual paint. There's actually more. No, so usually it's done in the conference, and that's why this just happened that it's time for this lecture before the conference, which usually in the spring. So we're going to save the hands-on part for the conference, and you guys will have to remember this in the back of your head somewhere, and you'll paint your own icons. So, what do you think that is? This is really old, how Facebook used to look a decade ago, I think. Icons. Why is this here in icons? Bayonne folks, don't give it away. Profiles. These are today's icons, right? These are today's icons. This is your own biography and story of your life. You get to post whatever you want to post. You get to allow people to believe your story and whatever it is that you want to write. What's that? You don't have one? Good for you. You're better for it. Right? So I encourage. Now, I'm not today talking about watch what you put on your Facebook page. That's actually not what I'm here to say. But what I'm actually going to tell you is that in icons, these folks, they didn't get to decide their story. It was written about them, right? It was a whole other biographer. So I implore you, like sometimes we post Bible verses and, I came across this and it's really great. But we're not really living and breathing what we're posting and doing and saying. So I implore you guys to really, really live by your words. And is it hitting home or? Oh, okay. Okay, so usually people think I'm going to say, don't post crazy pictures of yourself. But actually, no, just live by what you post on there. And these are your living icons. So when you guys are in the conference, when I ask you guys to paint your little itty-bitty icons, what story will you have to say? What is your legacy? What have you contributed to Christianity and the rest of the human faith? Think about that. What would your icon say? And really use them. I'm sorry, go ahead. No, because I'm going to change topics, so I'll take. When's the conference? So the conference we do every year, and it's like a whole day, a spiritual day. We start off with the liturgy, and then it's like lecture, workshops, kind of a mini retreat, but a day together. And we have food, we have snacks, we have coffee, great speakers, but a lot more hands-on stuff to kind of, and it's a little bit different than your regular curriculum, so it's kind of more geared towards helping us have, I guess, more tools in our belt for serving. So, okay, all right. Now I forgot what I was going to say. Do you guys have any questions while I think? Why is what? So the cross, that's not Coptic. Thank you for pointing that out because I didn't look that high. That's not Coptic. So actually Christ on this cross looks as if he's suffering. That's not a right or wrong thing, by the way. That's not a right or wrong thing. It's just the method you're going to go with is you have to continue on that path. If you're going to paint a Coptic icon, then you have to use those guidelines. If you're going to play soccer, you play soccer rules. If you're going to play basketball, you play with basketball rules. You're not going to go in with a basketball referee and play soccer, right? So whatever style you choose to go with, you're going to go with that style all the way. So it's not a right or wrong thing, but in the more Roman traditional Greek art, they do have more emotions, more feeling. You see his suffering, you see his pain, and that's to drive another point in us, right? You don't get that in the Coptic icon, it's more peace.
So you would never see a devil's full face?
I don't think I've ever seen the devil portrayed other than in a dragon, demon type picture.
And it doesn't show the
Like I've never seen a man with horns and that's the devil, you know, like how we picture him. He's usually like an evil dragon or, yeah. And usually green, and it represents like evil. Moros. While the gold leaf, that's for you to say. Oh, I thought you were just asking a good question. The gold represents, I think, the richness and the kingdom of heaven. Like he's a king. So gold in our church, we always are happy to decorate in gold and red because that has a significance of the richness. He's a king. Let's not forget that. He's a king who humbled himself, but he's most definitely a king. So I think that signifies the fact that he was a king, but he died on the cross to save us. She was a demon whisperer. Yeah.
So and the demon, I think he was full faced.
Is it a Coptic icon? That's so. I want you guys to, when you go look at these, I want you to really take an appreciation for how they were done and what everything means, what everything is signifying. Look at it and go, oh, okay, yeah, that's a profile. Is that a Coptic icon? Oh, this is a demon with full face. Is that a Coptic icon? Oh, Christ is suffering in this picture. He looks like he's in pain, but is that a Coptic icon or a Greek or a Roman? So, and it was a Coptic icon. Interesting.
How would you know? It's a Coptic icon.
How would you know? I just gave a lecture on Coptic icons.
Oh.
So if it looks more like the round face, the strokes are very straight and narrow, not as much blending in as regular artwork is. Really big eyes, head proportioned, bigger than the rest of the body, lean and long nose and fingers. None of them have any nail beds, by the way. Did you ever notice that? They never have nail beds. They don't have nails. They're just fingers. You notice? What else? No, I'm just throwing it out there like it's something that I noticed. So my point is, take a look at them and really appreciate them. Appreciate the person who did them, because it really takes a lot of hard work and effort, and you'll never know unless you try one and see how different and complicated they are. All right, if there's no other questions, yes? Say that again? The cross? Okay. So, you want me to say it in Arabic? Okay. I'm going to say it again in Arabic عشان okay. بس ما تضحكوش عليا, okay? Okay. I'm going to butcher this probably. Okay. The Christ on the cross is a Roman or Greek art style. So in that type of style, they show a lot of emotion. This is not Arabic at all. They show a lot of emotions and feelings. How do you say emotions and feelings in Arabic? Ahsas. Very good. Okay, so he's suffering. It's how do you say painful? Alam, bayn ala wishu, right? But so that's in the Roman style or Greek style, we call it. In the Coptic style, it's different. Let me see if I can go back to the one that I have. Okay. Oh, I passed it. It's a lot of peace, no emotion, just kind of just content. They're happy, they're satisfied. And what does that represent? Satisfied and contentment versus pain and suffering.
Sacrifice for us.
But even John was beheaded and looks peaceful. What does that signify? That they willed this. They're willing to go to their own death. Yeah. Okay. Any other questions? Did I get it right?
Is there a certain way you have to paint like an animal or something? Like if you have like I don't know, I'm just asking.
I haven't read about animals specifically. You mean like lions and things?
Yeah.
I mean, I haven't read anything specific to animals, not because it's not out there, just because I haven't gotten to that yet. But if you guys go out there and look at the icon that we did as a group of St. Mark, you'll notice 3 different people did it and 3 different styles went into it. And you can kind of tell who worked on what and what was more Coptic versus what was more traditional. And the lion per se wasn't necessarily any different, or the animals are not any different. Usually they're round faces, the shading is the same, dark to light, still very linear in how the brush strokes are. Everything is
So the
the
lion
same.
wasn't considered like evil because it was like as like to be evil. But
Right, like profile, like 2 eyes versus 1 eye. Yeah, because they usually draw them after the fact they've been tamed and obedient.
so they're not.
Whereas the demons and the evil things, they're usually like being stabbed with a sword, or they're still not tamed yet, and they're untamable, tameable. Kind of thing, so, good question though. I'll look that up. A horse? Say that again?
Where's the boat? There we go.
There's a horse, yeah. That's kind of going to be hard to draw a horse with a round face, let's be honest. So, I mean, you got to work with it a little bit. But I don't necessarily, I mean, this is like what, a profile of the horse, but he's also in white, so I think that's kind of confusing.
White wasn't
Purity.
so it does.
Purity. Yeah, but she's asking like if the horse has a profile, like are the rules the same for animals? So I said I'm not really sure. I have to look into that. Why don't you guys look that up?
I don't think animals have evil. No, but it's the same thing with like a child. If you have like a baby and you grow, like you teach them the right way, then they're not evil. If you teach them the wrong way, then they're evil. Like it's whichever way. So that like the lion, it was taught up to be evil, to like kill the Mark and something. I'm like mixing everything up. He was taught up to do that, but then after all that whole thing, that he's not evil anymore because of like all that stuff. I'm just saying like I'm making stuff up. Like legit, I'm making stuff up. So, yeah.
Good point. I hear what you're saying, Veronica.
But I'm not going to.
I hear what you're saying. Anybody else? Any questions? Are we done? Okay. So keep this in mind for springtime when we revisit icons and you get to paint your own icon, your own biography of yourself, and what story do you, and what your icon would say about you.
I thought we were painting like the saint.
Nope.
Can I
You'll paint
my
yourself?
name saint? Like the saint for me?
You could.
That would be complicated.
You could have her in the back of you. Okay? Thank you. Go ahead.
Do we stand? Yes. Oh, no. Yeah, because he talks to me.